Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Okay, so let's start with the mission of Sankofa Animation Network. So the mission of Sankofa Animation Network it exists to uplift Black and Brown communities through animated film, faith-centered storytelling, and creative education, building a global community where underrepresented voices are nurtured, empowered, and seen. We have an African proverb for today, and the African proverb is when you have a lot to do, start with a meal. I can relate to that today because I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much and I'm like really hungry right now. So I made myself a little plant-based sausage breakfast sandwich. All right, so today, our theme of today for sketchbook workshop, actually, this is week 3. I'm sorry, I didn't change that, is characters. And we're talking specifically about protagonists and audience. So, protagonist and audience. All right, so what is a protagonist? A protagonist is the leading person, central figure, or main character in a story, play, or movie. They drive the plot forward and face the primary conflict. And this is from Merriam-Webster. So, protagonist informs audience. All right, so when we're thinking about the protagonist and how they inform the audience age, let's look at some examples that I brought up here. I have a couple of very popular, or mostly popular, examples of exactly how audience informs age. If you see like Dora the Explorer, she's obviously a young child, kindergartner, and she is for, preschool, preschool age. We have Danny Phantom here. He's about 10 years old, and that's exactly who he's for. The kid age range, 7 to 12 is usually for kids. The Hangover, men going through a midlife crisis is exactly who they're targeting, and that's exactly who the protagonist characters are. I haven't actually watched that movie. Surprise, surprise. So I don't know which of these guys here is the protagonist, but I mean, you can see they're all basically the same age. They're all going through some type of middle age crisis. The Office, obviously, it's for, middle age, early middle age. People probably have a regular office job and can relate to this show. Girls Trip, I mean, come on, we can see who they're targeting by who the protagonist characters are, and the age range, the type of lifestyle, all of those things can really easily be visible by the protagonist, but I just want you to understand or like see how often the protagonist character is the age of the audience demographic, the audience that the filmmakers, the directors are trying to reach. That is who they're going to have play the protagonist role. And one of the things that I actually found out was that I don't know if you know this movie, The Lost Boys. It's one of my favorite movies from the 80s, but the original script was starring like kids, like young like 10 to 12 years old boys because like in the Peter Pan story of the Lost Boys, they're all like boys. But when Joel Schumacher, the director, saw it, he changed it to teenagers because he had a vision for this teenage movie. And so he changed the characters to teenagers. Bucket list. Obviously, that's for the mature adults. That's for the retirees. That's the movie that your unks go see. So look at what it's about too. It's about preparing for death. Like, sadly enough, it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna do some fun things and get them out of the way before I die. And obviously, the protagonist characters are gray-haired men, upper level in life. Okay, so one of the questions we're going to do for today is what age group would you like to write for and why? So thinking about, looking what I said, that your audience informs the age. So if you're looking at the type of character that you want to create, what audience would you like to reach them? You could either choose the audience first or you can choose the character first. You can choose Like if you're choosing the character first, you're like, oh, I really want to do this child character, then you want to think about child stories. You want to think about a child audience. You want to think about the types of stories that are for that children would want to watch. And I'm sorry, my voice is I probably shouldn't have had breakfast right before because now my voice is acting weird. And the next one is what audience do you under do you understand because you've been in their shoes? So this is for the first one, you can really choose any age and you can kind of even if you wanted to choose an older age, you can imagine what it might be like to be that older age. But if you want to do specifically from your experience, you want to choose an age group that you've obviously been before. So whether that's child, whether that's teen, if you're an adult, what age categories would you like to talk to as an adult? All right, so we're going to go into poses. We're going to be starting with young poses, uh, nursery and kindergarten or pre-K, and that's ages 0 to 6. Nursery will be around 0 to 2, and then the pre-K will be around 3 to 6. So what age group would you like to write for and why? And we're going to, oh, how cute. We're going to do 10-minute poses for this one, and we're going to talk about our age group categories. So let's go ahead and do that in 3, 2, 1. All right. So I tend to like to do stories about kids, stories, not necessarily this young, but I have characters that are this young. That's also another thing to consider too, is if you don't have, is if even if your protagonist might not be um, this tiny, you might have other characters, secondary characters, and we're talking about secondary characters next week actually, but you want to still be able to draw them. You want to still be able to not just guess what they look like and just make them smaller versions of adults. You want to actually look at the source. You want to actually find photos of the age category that you're trying to draw. I think a great resource will be like the I don't know how much they make them anymore, but the old clothing advertisements. So like the type of stores that would sell children's clothes might be a good place to get some inspiration for child characters. If you're making a protagonist that's this young, like you might think of like a lot of times they'll use animal characters, but I think it's a good idea to practice drawing humans this age because it's going to inform you a bit about, it's going to inform you how to draw this age. It's going to inform you um, how to make characters out of this age. So even if you might not be used to drawing people that are this tiny, you might want to do some sketches because you can create some good stories. A lot of children's books, if you think about children's books, you might have a protagonist character that's really young, like some of the characters, the people that we're seeing here. So that's just something to think about. Um, you might want to draw them realistically first. I always think it's a good idea to draw your characters as they are first and to draw your ins because they're at first they're not characters. You're just kind of like trying to understand the people at this age, trying to understand whether it's people that you're drawing or animals that you're drawing. You just want to understand how they are naturally at first. And then you can begin to kind of caricature them into whatever style that you like. But it really helps if you first kind of understand how they stand, their proportions that are different, very different than adults are. You might want to understand the way that they move or the way that they walk, which is going to be very different than the way an adult walks, hopefully. An adult is not walking like how a toddler would be walking. So just those are all things that you want to consider, okay? And it's really important. Let's see. I think for what age groups that I would like to write for, like why would I want to write children's stories? I think for me too, like one of the reasons why I like telling stories for younger people is because they still have hope. They still have a chance to be good humans And it's good if you can inspire somebody, especially if you can start inspiring them from a young age. And yeah, I think if you especially like early, they need good stories. They need good stories just like anyone else. A lot of the early nursery rhymes are written for very young kids. I think that's why they call it nursery. Obviously, it's for kids that are that little tiny age. And it might have some protagonist characters that are just a little bit older than them. And I will talk about that too, because one of the other alternatives or the other option is it's you're creating a character that you're creating a protagonist character that your audience wants to emulate, that your audience would like to be like. So whether that is the same age person and maybe like a something that they esteem to or aspire to, like someone that's maybe more famous or has a successful life, or maybe it's somebody that's like a little bit older that they look up to being like at a certain age in their life. Like, and you think about like princess movies. Obviously, they're not necessarily for girls that are teenagers like the princesses are, but they're for girls, the young girls who would like to be like that when they're older. They're looking up to the characters. Okay. So I think the little sweater. When you think about Boss Baby, uh, that is a little toddler character. And he's actually like probably for a little bit older than that. But I mean he's still for the kids age, for the kid age. Not that kids in nursery school won't watch them, but he's for the kid age. So even though he is a toddler, he emulates the personality or the mind of someone that's a little bit older. You might have a character like SpongeBob, who's the reverse of Boss Baby, who actually has um the basically the body he doesn't have a body of anything but a SpongeBob, but he is an adult working and learning to drive. I mean, he has his own place, but at the same time, if you ever listen to the creators or behind the scenes, they'll say, yeah, SpongeBob is like 10. So in his mind. So he has an adult body and lifestyle, but in his brain, he's really just 10 or something around that age. I think it's also important to think about the types of things that that age group is interested in, because that both things that are timeless and the things that don't get old, just like universal things that kids are interested in, but also like, all right, what is something that hasn't been told yet? What is something that would really grab an toddler like these who are like, they're already being introduced to cell phones. They're already being introduced to technology and a very different world than it was when we were toddlers and when we were that age. So, how can you make it so that it feels timeless or that it's resonating in some way with the kids who are this age now? That's like, I know it's a little bit challenging, but it makes you think like, okay, how can I reach this audience? How can I um, tell stories that they're going to want to read, that they're going to want to watch, that are going to excite them and make them want to watch the film a second time, want to buy the toy or whatever the case is? Because I mean, stories that are impactful stay with people, right? They stay with people for a long time and they make them like want more of that feeling that they had when they were watching that movie or that show. Like you can relate whenever you find a TV show or a movie or whatever it is that you really are interested in, and how you might just watch that thing again and again, or maybe you want to buy a t-shirt that represents it just because you just love the feeling that you had when you were watching it. You want to experience that again in some way or another. All right. So. let us keep this is these cute little outfits are fun. All right, so I could see this person like wearing like a little paper uh pirate hat, like those paper sailing hats and like going on adventures. Like I could see this character, this little drawing becoming an actual character and going on adventures. And that could be a fun little nursery story, but I could definitely see that. I would probably draw them a couple more times just to kind of get some variations and get some different ideas. But I could definitely see this guy becoming a character. Like imagine like he had like a little friend parrot. And him and the parrot went on some types of like imaginary pirate adventures. Like I could already kind of see that happening. And they had this whole like adventurous, I don't know what a ship looks like, but you can imagine like if they were making these things up in their head and they had this whole adventure that they could go on. That's how drawing from life, drawing people, drawing different ethnic backgrounds, so that you can get um, source material. You don't want to imagine what a different ethnicity looks like. You want to actually draw what that different ethnicity looks like so that you can have an accurate depiction. And the best way is to draw from life. Okay, 7 to 12. So you can pick any one of these guys. And just we're going to be doing 10-minute poses again. Bring this over just a little bit more so we're not cutting anybody off. All right, so 10 more minutes. And we're going to be doing some of these characters. So, I mean, this is obviously probably the most popular category that animation is made for. It's very popular for children's books, like toys, games. Like so much is catered to this age group. This is the age group that really everything is made for them. All right. And so much is made for them. The most popular age group at Disneyland is made for this age group. When you think about uh, Chuck E. Cheese, like those types of amusement parks, it's made for this age group. Like they, you guys at this age, everything is made for you, right? Because it's like this is the age where you're gonna like decide the types of things that you're gonna like probably for the rest of your life. This is like very formidable age. This is like when you're gonna decide what types of books that you like to read. If you like to read at all, you're gonna decide um the types of stories that you like at this age. I mean, you'll be influenced at the nursery school age, but you're really gonna, I think, decide at this age like what your favorites are. Um, you're really discovering this is the coming of age. I mean, if we're talking when we talked about coming of age last week, and we looked at um that category or that genre, I mean, when we think about it, it's very true that most of the kids in the coming of age films are going to be in this age group, right? I want to make this small, make her face smaller for her head, but not her ears. So I'm just kind of adjusting how I do that. I want to give her the top part of her head a little bit more mass than the bottom. And obviously, when you're drawing from life, is you're just kind of trying to capture like the overall like what your first impressions are. You want to just kind of get your best idea out. You want to get any type of drawings out that's going to help you understand what this age group is like for us right now. Like we're gonna trying to understand our subject right now. And so that just means trying to capture it. I wouldn't get too too caught up in making like perfect drawings at this time. You want to just make many drawings. I think that's more important is making lots of drawings. Lots of drawings are going to help you to just understand better, get that, understand the proportions, understand the types of things that they do, like with your posture, because it's not an adult that you're drawing here. And if you just draw a smaller adult, it's not going to read. It's going to look weird. It's just going to feel off because it's not the target age category that you were going for in the first place. Okay, we draw another. So I'm gonna draw this little girl over here. And same thing, I think like some of these clothing advertisements are great places to find ideas, especially for kids' fashion, because you might not know how to dress your characters. I'd be like, how do they dress? Like, I don't know how kids dress. Do they just dress like small adults? No, their clothes are actually more fun than most of the adult clothes that are around. Their clothes might be more colorful or have more different youthful patterns like rainbows and butterflies and types of things that you probably might think. Well, I remember there was a time I was like during the pandemic, llamas were really in in kids' clothes, and I was actually a teacher at like a painting shop, and we would actually have like different llama themed paintings because just llamas were really in. There were like pencil cases and all types of things that were just llama related during that era. Ah, okay. Let's see. And I think too, once you start to feel comfortable and you start to feel a little bit more like you get it a little bit more, play around with it. Play around with the design, play around and make caricature out of it. But get the drawings first, get the idea first, and then you'll have the freedom to make some caricatures. And that is going to be, that's when it starts to really get fun. You can draw kids with little gaps in their teeth and all of that. And I move her face, this part of her face over just a little bit. And let me move her mouth over a little bit more. All right. Make sure you do eyebrows. Eyebrows make a big difference with your characters. And I even want to change this part of her face a little bit, I think. It's so hard to draw a face sideways. It's hard for me anyway, I'll say. I can say that it's hard for me to draw sideways faces and get the proportions right anyway. But getting the idea, just get the idea. That's kind of the point here. Understand and get that. Okay. I'm going to go back to the question. The question was, I'm looking at the second one. What audience do you understand because you've been in their shoes? I mean, all of us understand kids because we've all been a kid before, right? When you think about being a kid, what types of memories do you think about? What do you kind of imagine? How did you imagine when you were a kid? What types of things did you want to be when you grew up? Or like, who did you want to be like? And if you think about that, you'll start to like think from that way, think from yourself as a child when you're writing for people that are of this little age category. And I think it will help you quite a bit in your drawing and in your storytelling when you start to think about telling stories for different age groups. Okay, so let's see. Got 2 minutes left. Let me see if I can draw one more character or one more person from this age category. I love all the different colors. They're just really fun. There's a lot of slanting, there's a lot of sideways, there's a lot of, it's almost a bit of awkwardness, but it's like endearing awkwardness. It's like, yes, I don't really know how to keep still, so I just kind of, even when I'm just standing up straight, I'm still kind of leaned over. But those are little quirks that you can put into your characters. Those are just little things that you can notice that people won't even realize. Like even just having like, let's see, if I make this a little bit smaller. Like having them hold their shoe sideways. A lot of kids do that. We'll put one shoe sideways while the other one is flat. See if I can redraw this piece. And it may look like his foot is kind of broken or something, but just having that little bit of extra can make a difference in your character. Like, it's just like, oh, that character, kids do stuff like that. If you have your own kids, you'll notice, like, if you do have your own kids, notice the little quirks and the things that they do and the way that they talk, even. It can help you think about how to create characters from that age category. Or if you have people in your family, or if you teach, that's a good inspiration too. I was just talking the other day with a mentor of mine, and we were talking about teaching and just like the need for artists to also teach because um, a lot of the just and this they really need to hear from people who do this for a living because a lot of the times they might get the same teacher teaching them art. This is the same one that's teaching them science or something else, and it's just kind of like a general idea of the subject without really that passion for it. And that happens sometimes that happens a lot more than people think or realize. You'll get a teacher and that's not really their thing, but they need artists who are showing them, hey, this is a viable option here. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a the industry is not great right now, but still, you don't want people to not even try. Like, even if you had a hard time yourself, you don't want other people to not even try. So it's just something to think about. So draw it through your lines. That means like even if I have like this shirt here, I can still figure out where the pants starts and where the pants are gonna end. It's gonna help you. Okay, well, if his foot is that way, his knee is gonna have to be a little bit the other way, in the other direction. All right, so these are just some getting some ideas out, getting some ideas on paper or on screen so that you know a little bit about what to do. I mean, you think about all the characters that are children, Charlie Brown, um, God, there's a million and one characters, Archie, Dennis the Menace, so many characters. Okay, so we're going into our second question. What stories made you feel seen growing up? And what age of life are you most interested in exploring? Childhood, teen years, adulthood, elderhood? So we're going to start with that first question and look at that. And take a sip here. But let's go ahead and answer that question, the stories that made you feel seen growing up, as we go into our next age group category. We're looking at young adult, um, 12 to 18 to new adult, 18 to 25. And let's set our timer here. So yeah, I mean, I think stories that made me feel seen. Let me see, what is the first one that comes to mind? Um, I don't know why I'm thinking of this so much, but I'm thinking about like the color purple. It wasn't even my story like at all, but I just the fact that they talked about trauma just made me feel like okay, they're not like you can tell stories that are not you know, always just happy only. You can tell stories um that are, hard and difficult. And it made me feel, I think as a writer, it made me feel seen more than as growing up, it made me feel seen. It made me feel seen as someone like, okay, it's okay to tell difficult stories. I don't have to be afraid to tell stories that are hard. And it gave me a lot of freedom in that way that I didn't feel like in a box. Growing up, let's see. I have to think about that because I don't know if I felt seen growing up. Like really, I don't know if I did. And I'm doing like more caricature here. I think probably too because I'm much more used to drawing this age category, so I feel a little bit more free to caricature it. With the kids, it's still something that's not that it's new for me, but I just don't have as many toddler or kid characters that age. So anyway, I feel a little bit more free to kind of caricature the teen young adult age group. All right. So let me think. There's got to be something that makes me feel seen. I think The Little Mermaid, if anything, made me feel kind of seen because I'm like, yeah, I don't fit in here either, Ariel. Like, tell me about it. Let's just go someplace else. I think it was probably that aspect. So not necessarily that I was a mermaid in the ocean or that I was, 16 when I saw the movie. I was 6, 7 ish. But it was somebody that I wanted to be like. Like I said, when you're looking characters that you can look up to, Ariel was definitely a character like I want to be like her. Like, and I could already see myself in her, like imaginative, like collecting weird things or making weird things. And just not really fitting in with the sisters or with um whatever the family was planning. I definitely felt like that was me in some respects, and I could relate to that type of a character. All right. Any other that I can think of off the bat that made me feel seen? I was a big fan of Beauty and the Beast when I was a kid, but I was thinking about it too, and I'm like, I wonder why I was such a fan when I was a kid, but I just slowly kind of lost interest as I got older. And I think it's because I don't resonate as much with Belle nearly as much as I felt like I did with Ariel. And I think, I mean, I wasn't a reader. I wasn't someone who read a lot. And yeah, I get that like the same thing with like the not fitting in, but there was something about her that felt a little bit more prudish, if I can use that word, or just felt like, I don't know. It just seemed like maybe I don't have that much in common with um Belle, other than like probably when I was younger, the desire to fix people, which I think that Belle definitely has that codependent bit about her, like trying to fix this beastie man and make him her husband or whatever, like fall in love and all of those things. So that's kind of hilarious. But second question, what age of life are you most interested in exploring? Um, I think it's the same thing. I think I am interested in young adult and kids age. not really that interested in adult. I don't know why, but I just feel like the stories that I like to tell are more just feel like it has to do with that childhood wonder. And I talked about that before in the previous workshop. I just like the idea of having the wonder. I like the idea of the imagination and um I don't know. I when I think about some of the inspiration that I have, like I'm a huge fan. I don't want to say, yeah, I mean, I am a big fan of like the Game of Thrones type of series. So I'm like, well, why don't I want to draw something like that? And I think the idea is that I let it influence me, but the way that I tell stories is a little bit different. So it still has an influence that's still kind of like the types of feelings that you might have, like the fear or like the intensity of like, oh, what's going to happen next? I like those types of things, but I want to incorporate it in my way. And I think that's reaching a younger audience. Teen and young adult, like it's a fun age to explore for stories because even though this is a less popular age, it has a whole lot of potential. And you know what? I think the American market neglected this age a lot, especially when it comes to just still being a kid and still like um the fact that you're a kid, but you're like a grown-up kid. I think the American market kind of jumps from kid straight to adult, and they even make like teen movies like way more mature than I think they should be. I remember the teen movies that came out when I was a teen, and it was just like, most of it was just like like smut type of stuff, like garbage types of things that I wasn't necessarily interested in, but I guess they were more popular at that time. But I think that is really why the anime market took off because American market neglected this age group. And I think I'm just realizing that right now. The American market neglected young adults, and that is why they turned to anime. That really makes a lot of sense for me right now. It makes a lot of sense. And now I'm like, oh, no wonder. So it makes me kind of happy too that I'm making that my series JD story is for young adult. That makes me kind of happy that it's more possibilities, especially coming from a different point of view than the typical American market. And it's like an African themed story and location story, and I'm telling something from a perspective that I want to be proud of telling, and I'm excited about that. And I think that that's a really important point to remember when you're telling stories is, what is a group of people who's not being met yet, especially who's not being met by people who can tell the types of stories you can tell, like your cultural stories, um, just exciting stories that maybe from a different perspective that they haven't seen yet. So these are all things to think about. These are all things that you can just kind of like, okay, this can work. I can see where this is going. I can see that there haven't been even the older age category that hasn't been told a lot. You see certain types of movies are like the bucket list type movie, but maybe you want to tell something exciting and discovering a whole new part of themselves. I think that can be really good. Uh, and one thing that I want to point out, because I know some of you are probably yelling at the screen right now and saying, no, 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 no. Audience is not about, um, has nothing to do with the protagonist's age because, and you name a movie like Up. Well, I have an answer for you as well. Trust me, I'm ready for this. When you have a movie like an Up, look around and just take notice because likely the protagonist character or the perceived protagonist character is not the only one who's really having a presence. Sometimes they want you to be the peripheral of the protagonist. Sometimes it's the relationship mirroring that's really the protagonist character when you think about it. And so when you look at a movie like Up and you see that Boy Scout character is always with this older man, and he's always kind of like he's basically having has a relationship with this older man, and the dynamic is between those two, and how the older man is able to change in many respects because of the point of view and perspective of this younger guy. So even though you have a protagonist essentially that's the older character, the audience member is seeing the movie through the lens of this younger guy. So it's kind of like um, one of those types of films that you can see with that you would see with your grandparent. You say, "Oh, this one is my perspective, and that one is your perspective, and we can both enjoy the movie together." It's one of those movies where it's meant for two very different people who have regular relationships in life, a common relationship like parent-child, grandparent-child, but they can both watch the movie together and they can both enjoy it together. And that's kind of what Disney and Pixar is like famous for, or like what is very successful for, is making films that both the child and the adults can enjoy at the same time. That was a mouthful. Okay, we don't have a whole lot of time. Geez, we might not even be able. So let's actually do 5 minutes for the next two, just because we're not going to be able to finish if we do 10 minutes each. So this is the adults and 25 plus this is most of us, right? Most of us where we are in life right now. We're kind of boring, honestly. We're kind of boring. Who wants to tell a movie about people our age? I mean, but there are a lot of movies. Most of the action movies fall into this category. Most of the rom-com movies fall into this category. When you think about a lot of movies that are dealing with settling into life, settling into career, settling into love. That is the age category for this. It's a really like it's for some people. Some people really like this age category. Some people really love a rom-com movie. Um, I'm not one of those people who really enjoy a rom-com movie, but a lot of people do. Um, a lot of the figuring your life out type of stuff, a lot of the a lot of comedy movies are for this age category. This is like, all right, you're just taking a break. They're not really theatrical films, and that might be a reason why I'm not necessarily always a fan because, I mean, a lot of times, it feels like anyway, that this age category will get like yeah, I don't like comedy features, but a lot of people do obviously, and they do pretty well in the theaters. I love a stand-up show and I love a stand-up special, but I don't know. I just don't think comedy movies are terribly funny. That's just my personal little opinion there. All right. So, but there's a lot to tell here. I mean, that's the thing too. It's like if you don't like something, you can always change it. Like say, if there's too many cheesy comedies for this age range, maybe I just want to make something that's um about an action or that not an action, but like a adventure story, a fantasy story. You can do something like that. And those are the types of movies, oftentimes too, that you can reach multiple age categories because uh, you can reach both the audience member that is looking up to the main character and also the audience member who feels like they could be the main character or like this is somebody that they could relate to in some way or even want to be like. Even if you're the same age as somebody, you might be like, yeah, this would be me in another universe, in alternate universe, this would be me. Okay, let's think. What was the other question I had? Age of life you'd be most interested in exploring. I think it's, you know what it is too for me? Even though I don't necessarily want to make my protagonist in most instances being of this age category, I have a whole lot of secondary characters that are in this age category. And we're talking in depth about secondary characters next week. But it does make me think. It does make me think about the secondary characters and how I like to portray them. Um, how I can still make them fun. So it's still, you'll still need to practice, even if you're having um, characters from this range as a secondary character. Obviously, you're still going to need to practice sketching them, have fun sketching them, and make some caricatures after you finish doing your studies, because I would consider all of this kind of thing more like a study, but then you would go in and start caricaturing, just like simplifying. I mean, that's really the definition. It's not the Webster definition, but that is basically the definition. You use caricaturing is you're simplifying it, and you're just, you're making it more pleasing, you're making it funnier, you're doing some element of it to make it more digestible for an audience. So I think that that is a great place. This is a great place to start, but don't stop here. Continue with caricature. I'm losing my voice. I started to lose my voice after a little while. I'm noticing. I'm noticing that. Geez, let me think of another question because I think this is a good conversation about characters uh of older ages that maybe um are not as popular, especially in animation, but how we might be able to reach that age category within animation. Because I think there's so many people who find animation or comics later in life, and they don't even realize that it's an art form until later in life, and they're like, "Oh wow, I didn't know animation could do this." And I think that's important for people to see it as that because it's not only for kids. I mean, I am very much an advocate of stating that animation is not only for kids, even though kids is mostly the story age that I like to talk to. It's still important to know that animation is not just for kids. All right, this is our final pose. We're gonna do 5 minutes. All right, you can pick one. How can you pick? They're both so cute. Older people. Oh, older adults. So older adults is age 65 plus. And it's not just stories about um like your bucket list. That was a fun little example, but obviously there's endless possibilities for older people. And you know what? That stage of life is really like kind of bittersweet because it's like you're enjoying life, but you're enjoying like, it's almost like just slowing down in life. Like, even though like yes, you're older and we all face the inevitable fact that we're all going to pass away, but still it's just like enjoying the simpleness of life. I think that's a big part of like being of an older age, enjoying the things that you um didn't appreciate maybe as a younger person, and appreciating appreciating life for what it is. And I don't know. I think those are kind of sweet things to realize as you're getting older. Don't neglect drawing older people. You might think, oh, I don't really like to draw older people. Well, just give it a try. They can be fun to draw. You can kind of play with their features a bit. You can actually play with their features a lot. Um, Notice things, you'll notice bigger ears, sometimes in some cases, bigger nose. And it's just, they can be fun to draw. So don't neglect drawing older people and having older characters. I think that's really important. So even if, like, just with the adult category, even if older is not the primary character, your protagonist character, still have them in your have them in your stories, and consider the fact that they're not as popular, and how can you maybe reach them? Maybe you can write a story for a grandparent, about a grandparent. You can write a story that like honors a grandparent. I think that is a super sweet way to tell stories when we let our own family inspire us. And maybe we write a little bit of a dedication in some way to them, you know? And maybe it's their relationship with their little chubby chihuahua. That's so hilarious that she has this little chihuahua up under her chin, and he's just like, okay, I don't really have a choice, but I'd like to say I want to be here, but I don't have a lot of a choice. Like maybe they're cross-eyed. You can have fun with this. Don't let yourself be too stiff or too serious. Let yourself have some fun and play around when you're just exploring. I like to go in between caricature and realism even when I'm doing studies. So let yourself do that. Let yourself have make it fun. Um, it is a good opportunity to make some stories for older people because I think they're a group that's not seen. And when you think about a movie like Bow, it's not even a movie, it's a little short animated film by Pixar. And she dreamed basically that her son is a dumpling because she's afraid of him, like growing up and moving on without her, basically. But that's sweet. It's a sweet story. Adults and children can watch it, but when you look at the movie, the content, it's really for the person of that age. It's for older people or people with children who know what it feels like when their kids are leaving. Their kids are growing out of them. Um, and they have to accept this thing. So even though, like, don't think that just because the age category, your protagonist character is older or younger, that no other audience member can enjoy it, because a lot of movies are shared with families. But when you think about it, the main character, always have in mind who you really want to love this movie to be like their jam, like their thing. Like this is like they love this movie because it speaks to them. So who do you want this movie to really speak to? Who do you want your stories to really speak to? It's what you need to keep in mind. It's what you want to keep in mind when you're telling stories. It's like, who can this really reach? Who can I I think I want to change the face just a little bit. The mu muzzle area. Just a little bit. I think I want to plain change it a little bit more even. That's hilarious. So anyway, have fun with your characters. Have fun telling your stories. Let yourself go a little bit. Let yourself have fun with these guys because it can be a whole lot of fun. I'm gonna give myself just another minute or two to draw this guy because he's hilarious. And her little arm. I'm actually gonna make this a little bit shorter. Okay. Actually, let me fix her hand just a little bit. Today's been a crazy week for me. Or this, not today, but this week was kind of crazy. I didn't have a whole lot of time to draw. So I'm glad that I had this opportunity to draw with you here. But it's been like I haven't drawn all week. So it feels good to draw again. But it's a little bit challenging in some of these parts to get some of these angles because I'm like, oh, I haven't drawn all week. That's usually. All right. So you get the idea. I don't like her arm. Her arm is bugging me. I'm gonna have to fix this really quick and then we're gonna move on. I'm sorry. And I have to get it like to where I'm okay with it. Otherwise, it's gonna drive me nuts. Okay, so maybe your arm is just holding him like this. And okay, your little hand is also holding him, giving him a little seat to sit in. I have to clean this drawing up at some point so it can be more clear. It's still really fun and cute. So I'm gonna have her like this. And she's sitting on her little bench. There we go. And trees and stuff. Oops, little trees. All right, you get the idea. Okay, so I cleaned this drawing up because I like it. Especially the little dog. It's so funny. All right, so I saved that. Okay, we're done with our drawing for today. So, I have a challenge for you. The week 3 challenge is meet your audience, meet your hero. See, the objective is here we go. Every great story begins with two important questions. Who am I creating this story for? And who is the best person to lead the story? So, this week you're going to answer those questions by choosing an audience and designing a protagonist specifically for them. So, part 1 is you're going to watch, if you haven't already seen it, watch workshop 1 and workshop 2 because those are both about inspiration. So, you're going to discover your inspiration. So, make sure that you go ahead and watch those. Right now, they're on YouTube. They probably won't be staying on there because they're going to be part of the extra material for the VIP workshop. So, make sure that you go on there to my YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it yet, um, it's right here, Alicia Dianne Art. So let's go Alicia Dianne Art and Sankofa Animation Network. Both of those channels have this video, Workshop 1 and Workshop 2. Next, you're going to choose your audience. So you're going to select one primary audience, nursery, 0 to 2, pre-K, 3 to 6, kids, 7 to 12, young adult, 13 to 18, adult, 25 plus, or older adult, 65 and plus. And based on your inspiration and your audience, sketch until you discover a protagonist character. Okay? You're going to sketch. It's a lot simpler than you think. Once you have your inspiration in your audience, the protagonist, you're going to get ideas popping left and right. At least that's the way it works for me. And this is like designed to be a source of like, oh, I have so many ideas. And so when you have an idea, just go ahead and look it up on Pinterest. Like I said, you can look at fashion ads and you'll be able to find whatever age category it is that you need for your protagonist character. Once you have your sketches, go ahead and share them in our Discord channel. So you can use this QR code right here and go to our Sankofa Animation Network Discord channel and you can share your sketches in the event art and photos. Last but not least, Sketch to Story Creative Writing for Visual Artists is on Kickstarter right now. This is just the tiniest little sample. You get so much more, and I go into so much more depth in the class, and it's not just tailored to reference sketches, it's all going to be building on creating your story and creating your own individual, unique stories and content that you can create animation, comics, games, whatever of your choosing. So I highly recommend this. Students of mine from the past have really enjoyed the way that I teach, and There's some reviews. If you look up Alicia Diane art in the Google reviews, you're gonna see some positive reviews there, and more and more people are telling me that I've really been helpful for them. So, Kickstarter right now, it's only up till the end of August, and this is the VIP link. It's never gonna be cheaper. It is never gonna be cheaper. So, you want to take advantage. Take advantage of that now while it's there. And thank you so much for joining me for this week 3 of the VIP Sketch to Story Drawing Workshop. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me. And until I see you again, be grateful, live balanced, and be yourself. See you next time. Bye bye.